In lieu of jumping on the bandwagon with the rest of the entertainment press and opening every single Captain Marvel review with a full paragraph prologue staking out a position in the thoroughly idiotic culture war that the third least useful human beings on the planet have insisted that we fight over a f***ing Marvel movie, I'm going to use my time to chuckle softly to myself in acknowledgement of the actual god-tier trolling that Annette Bening's top-secret character identity turned out to be. A certain stripe of critic likes to complain that the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies adhere rigidly to formula, but to be honest, I think they're reacting more to how similar the reviews end up being than how similar the films are. The differences are in the details, but the qualities by now are pretty consistent. Most of the MCU features are solid B-plus programmers that may rise or fall in one's personal estimation based on a particular like or dislike for an actor, concept, subgenre, theme, etc., with a handful of grade A standouts like the first Avengers, the Guardians movies, the Captain America sequels, Thor Ragnarok, and so forth. But yeah, if someone says it's your basic Marvel origin movie and one of the good ones, you know what they mean, so hum along if you know the words. Captain Marvel is a fun, comfy, mid-tier action blockbuster built around an agreeable performance by an overqualified supporting cast and a compelling lead actor you wouldn't necessarily expect to be blowing stuff up with laser fists, but that's why it's cool, gets a little long in Act 2, really good when it's an easygoing dialogue-driven character piece and sci-fi inflicted morality play, not as good when it's doing world-building housekeeping for interchangeable plot widgets that even the other movies don't pretend actually matter anymore.
Odin's treasures.
Fake.
Most of the stuff in here is fake.
The bad guys aren't as interesting as the good guys, but that's pretty much okay because these things aren't really about the villains or even the story. They're about building up the characters as relatable, likable, three-dimensional personalities so we'll watch them in future sequels and crossovers, which is a cynical marketing strategy that also paradoxically keeps turning these things into weirdly intimate character pieces that make you ignore the less good parts and then really like the good parts, which is basically what happens here. So yeah, it's a Marvel movie, this time around boasting the nominal gimmick of being mega franchise's first theatrical prequel since the original Captain America and the first headlined by a female hero. Its other big novelty is to play around it being a kind of non-linear version of an origin story, starting out in what we eventually learned to be the mid-1990s with Brie Larson already boasting mysterious energy-blasting superpowers, near-total amnesia, and serving as a soldier of the alien Kree Empire in their war against the shape-shifting Skrulls, captured during a failed mission, a mind probe by the Skrulls, that turns out to be, for some reason, interested in the same unanswered questions about her past that she is, sends the heroine and a small squad of Skrulls hurtling down toward primitive Earth, where she runs into younger versions of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents Nick Fury and Coulson, and realizes that Earth may actually be her home planet and the key to the past life she can't remember. There's a bit more to it than that, mostly laid out over the course of a second-act road trip that the woman who eventually learns her name is Carol undertakes with Fury to stop the Skrulls from getting what they want to get, all having to do with why she can't remember who she is, what she was doing that caused her to wind up in outer space with no memory and superpowers, what the Skrulls are or are not up to, and some less interesting than people will insist it is prequel housekeeping about why and how this all connects back to the later Avengers movies, backdoor origins for a pair of Guardians of the Galaxy bad guys, that kind of thing. The unfolding character stuff is very interesting, has a slow burn, almost Sundance movie from a couple years ago kind of vibe that fits Larson's overall groove very well. The back and forth with Jackson is great, the de-aging effect is really impressive most of the time too. He's super funny in this, and it's fun watching him slip back into his slick 90s action comedy guy mode. The whole interlude with Lashana Lynch as Carol's best friend Maria is very affecting and honestly could have used more screen time to develop further. And treading lightly because spoilers, there's a good stretch of Act 3 after a major revelation has turned the way a whole mess of characters relate to one another completely on its head that effectively means that a movie that starts out like Star Wars and then morphs into a kind of Riot Grrl Flight of the Navigator turns into Star Trek The Next Generation once it heads back out into space. That's all the stuff that works like gangbusters. See also Ben Mendelsohn as the nominal main Skrull baddie Talos and Jude Law as Carol's Kree commander Jan Rog. The stuff that works less well is the world building and continuity business, and also some of the pacing. There's a pair of big action scenes at the end, the context of which is difficult to discuss in depth without giving away the entire third act, that are both quite excellent in isolation and as technical achievements in stunt work and effects, but are both undercut by an element of, I get why fighting these specific people is important, but if they'd had one or two more scenes to establish it, I'd feel it a bit more. And yeah, if you were wondering, do they manage to get around the Senator Palpatine prequel problem of waiting for Carol to be shocked that the blue guys are bad when we've already seen the blue guys be bad in other movies? No, but can you really get around that? I feel like that just comes with being a prequel to something. That's generally why Marvel hasn't done that this much, I assume. Some of the supporting cast does also end up feeling underutilized, particularly Jemma Chan as Minerva, though let's be honest about this, a movie called 120 Uninterrupted Minutes of Jemma Chan would probably still do well to have a bit more footage footage of Jemma Chan. But when Captain Marvel is working, it's working, and that's overwhelmingly most of the time, and without giving anything away, it admirably commits to both a very decisive inversion of a long-lived Marvel Comics mythology trope and, after a suitable amount of shouting and exploding, commits to a decidedly different sort of finale than blockbusters like this usually go for that I'm not sure completely works, but I admire anyway considering how easy it would have been to do something more conventionally satisfying. Bottom line, I had a really good time with this, and as is usually the case with the better ones of these, I liked it more the more I thought about it after. That's always a plus. With apologies to the folks who I know are hoping for one reason or another that the whole Marvel thing is going to slow down at some point. No, it looks like this is another 2 to 3 sequels and a handful of team-ups that are in the cards. 7 out of 10, see you next time.